In an interview with host Kadembire Dembruka, Gurirab unpacked his time in politics, the role he played, and his personal life history.
Looking at your sterling career, you were a member of that historic Constituent Assembly that drafted and adopted our Constitution, the founding father of our republic. Did you ever imagine at some point, growing up in the dusty streets of Usakos, that you'd be playing such a meaningful role in the building of this nation?
Strangely, yes, I expected that I would amount to something. I didn't know then, at that time, what exactly that might be. I took for granted that I would become a teacher, which I did, hence Agostinium connection. But I also grew up at the time between World War II, Korean War, and other conflicts in the world. The reason why that made sense to me at that time was a good number of my cousins, uncles, got involved one way or the other, either in Second World War, because they left the country and went to serve then, of course, a British Empire in the Middle East, and one or two of them reached Europe. During the time of Korean War, some members of my family were working at a facility. The building still exists. It is the youth center or something in Usakos. And I was able, perhaps only black child, not allowed legally, but because my uncles worked there, to sneak in and watch movies. And all those things made sense to me, that one day I wanted to be part of that world.
During the interview, he singled out the reintegration of Walvis Bay as some of his achievements. The negotiations on the reintegration of Walvis Bay, Gurirab says, stood out as a key moment in the history of Namibia. He relates to you the decisions he made during the negotiations.
How much of it was a diplomatic effort, and how much of it were the South Africans looking at the situation back home in South Africa and the transition period that they were also experiencing, and probably they were biding for some time, perhaps also knowing that there will be majority rule in South Africa, and therefore the diplomatic effort really was a nullity?
That was more a pressure on their part. South Africans had succumbed when that resolution 432 was adopted, that Namibia would at one stage cease to be part of South Africa. So they were more negotiating with the expectation that the incoming government, which they knew was going to be SWAPO government, who would take care of their interests. So the 4 years really had nothing to do with South Africa's difficulties. They had already agreed to that in 1978.
So why credit Pat Botha then?
What was going on was, for the two sides, through this joint administration, our side headed by Bomba, other side by Ambassador Karl von Hinsberg, to sit down and look at what is Walvis Bay, not the territory of Walvis Bay, but what belongs to South Africa and what belongs to Namibia. That is what held up the process.